Alright, you and I are about to dive into a story where one tiny social media mistake turns a man's entire world upside down. My life turned into a nightmare that same night. My fiancé Stella called an emergency meeting, accusing me of wrecking the company culture. She docked my entire month's pay on the spot, and as if that wasn't enough, she immediately gifted her new assistant a luxury car worth millions of dollars. The office looked at me with pity. They all expected me to snap, flip a table, and start a massive scene right then. Instead, I stayed stone cold. I packed my desk, walked right up to her, and slammed my resignation letter down in front of her. Losing a month's pay for some fake drama? No thanks. I'm out of here for good. Suddenly, Felix, the office's resident pick-me guy and absolute snake, starts crying like a tragic opera singer. "Arthur, why are you leaving over such a tiny thing? You've been with this company for such a long time. Stella treats you so well. Think of her reputation. Boss, please, you have to talk him out of it right now." Stella was going to stop me, but after Felix's fake acting, she just flared up. Talk him out of it? Why should I? If he wants to go, let him. My conscience is clear. I don't care anymore. She snatched the paper, signed it aggressively, and threw it back in my face while everyone watched the show. I didn't even argue like I used to. I just picked up the paper and offered to hand over my work, but she screamed at me to just get out. Stella pointed at the door, coldly reminding me that quitting means I get zero severance pay, by the way. My work friends whispered for me to swallow my pride and apologize. Don't act on impulse, they said. Now, pay attention here, because this is where his sacrifice gets truly insane. He built this company with her, even drinking until he coughed up blood just for investments. When things got tough, I stayed awake for 3 days straight just to finish the job. I poured my entire soul into this office through blood and tears. Leaving meant walking away from everything I owned, but I was done. I said my goodbyes, grabbed my box, and headed out. But I caught one last look in Stella's eyes. She thought I was bluffing. We had fought over Felix so many times before, and I always caved eventually. The worst part was when she humiliated me in front of the whole office and gave my entire annual bonus to Felix. I threatened to quit then, but I eventually swallowed my pride and crawled back, acting like nothing happened. She expected the same thing this time. She thought I would brainwash myself into staying, but my patience had finally hit zero. My phone buzzed the second I walked out. It was a massive money transfer from my friend, Ben. Earlier, when Stella claimed the company was struggling and needed to cut my pay, my first thought was to worry about her stress levels. I contacted friends to borrow a huge sum of money to help her out, but then I saw Felix's social media post. That was my true wake-up call. You and I both know the feeling of finally seeing the truth. My heart was eerily calm. No jealousy, no pain. This same scenario had happened way too many times. I really couldn't tell if I was her boyfriend or if Felix was. I sent the money back to Ben and headed to the garage to find my 10-year-old junker car. Healing paint and all. Right next to it was that shiny new Porsche Stella just bought for Felix. The garage was empty, but he parked right there just to mock me. A blatant slap in the face. 10 years together, yet I was worth less than a guy who'd been here 10 months. I laughed, slammed the gas, and left the company I dedicated my youth to. But just as I reached the gate, someone slammed into the back of my car. I stepped out and saw Stella and Felix in the Porsche. "Arthur, why did you stop so fast?" I couldn't react in time. Felix cried, looking heartbroken over the dented bumper. "This was the car CEO Stella carefully picked out just for me," he whined. Stella's face went dark. "Arthur, I saw you glaring at this car earlier. Did you do this on purpose? Did you brake check us for revenge?" I almost laughed. She was actually trying to pin this on me. Felix sighed. "Don't blame him, boss. He's just mad because he lost his job. It's all my fault. If only I had been a little more careful," he whimpered. He put on a fake sad face and tried to hit himself. He slowed his hand down before it even touched his face, but Stella fell for the act. She just lovingly rubbed his head. "This isn't your fault," she said, before pointing at me. "Why can't you be more like Felix? He's humble. You've worked for years and you're still this arrogant." She pushed me so hard, I stumbled. It was hilarious. For a year, Felix stole my work and framed me, and now he's the good guy? I didn't even bother explaining myself. Trying to talk to her was like talking to a brick wall. I tried to leave, but she blocked me. Trust me, you and I are about to see a twist neither of us expected. Alright, you and I are watching the exact moment a relationship turns toxic. Arthur, I only expect so much because I have such high hopes. Hearing her gentle voice almost fooled me, but I caught the game. Stella patted my shoulder and told me she would revoke my resignation. Think carefully. Go apologize to Felix. As for the crash, you take full responsibility. Just transfer the repair money to Felix and we are done. I snapped back to reality and glared at Felix. He knew exactly what she was saying. That smug face and provocative eye roll said it all. I just smirked. I am not paying a single cent for this accident. Let the person responsible pay. If you have a problem, call the police. I am out of here. I turned to walk away while Stella practically jumped in rage. I gave you a chance, she screamed behind me. Do not you dare regret this. Regret? The only thing I regretted was staying this long. I got in my car and texted Ben. I quit. I can start at your company tomorrow. Less than half a second later, Ben called in total disbelief. Are you serious? What about Stella? Years ago, Ben and Stella started their businesses together. But while Stella started from zero, Ben had the resources to offer amazing benefits to everyone. Ben was desperate for top-tier talent and promised me shares and massive profits if I would finally join his team. Knowing my history with Stella, he even offered me a part-time spot to help out. But because of her, I rejected him instantly. During my darkest days, when I was nearly dying in the freezing snow, Stella was the one who dragged me to a station and saved me. I was so grateful that I gave up everything to build her business, doing whatever it took to make her company a massive success. But honestly, she never appreciated a thing. After years of acting like her slave, the debt is paid. Now watch closely, because Arthur finally snaps. Do not worry about her. I make my own decisions now, I told him. We confirmed the contract time. Then I drove home to start packing. I bought this house with my own money, but it was filled with memories of her. I had no intention of staying here. I started cleaning under the bed and found a stack of old sketches. Drawings of a girl smiling, lost in thought, or just looking in mirrors. It was all Stella. Every expression was so vivid. I had drawn every single one of those for her because she loved them. She used to treat them like treasures, framing and storing them away. But the moment Felix showed up, she suddenly got so impatient with me. She said drawing was outdated and a waste of time compared to photos. She did not want me to draw her anymore. And these? Tossed under the bed like trash. The paper was yellow and the ink was fading. I laughed, took them to the bathroom, and set them on fire. The flames swallowed it all, leaving nothing but ashes, just like our love burnt to a crisp while we were not even looking at it. I kept clearing out the junk. I did not own much, but without my things, the room suddenly felt massive, cold, and completely empty. I slumped on the sofa and looked for a rental near Ben. Suddenly, I saw Felix post a picture in the company group chat for everyone to see. It was a selfie with Stella at an arcade. She was holding a pile of stuffed animals and smiling like a radiant queen. That smile was so genuine, something I had not seen in years. I used to take her to the arcade all the time, too, but back then, she would call me childish and walk out immediately. She always said she was too busy for such useless and stupid things. Yet the things she hated doing with me, she somehow had all the time in the world to do with Felix. I just sneered. She did not hate childish things, she just hated me. You saw that coming, right? Meanwhile, colleagues are sucking up, calling her a literal angel. Some even praised the photography skills of Felix and joked about when the two of them would finally share some good news. Everyone knew I was her boyfriend, but they dared to joke because Stella never bothered to hide how intimate she was with that guy. If this were the old me, I would have called her screaming for boundaries, but now, I was as calm as a monk. I ignored it and kept apartment hunting. 2 minutes later, I checked again and saw the messages were unsent and the photo was totally deleted. I figured she would come home in the middle of the night like always, but surprisingly, she walked in soon after, chatting happily on the phone with Felix. Seeing me, she looked guilty for a second, then scowled. She glared at me intentionally, then slammed the bedroom door. I knew she was waiting for me to come in and beg her for attention. Every time something went wrong, I was the one who had to apologize and beg for her forgiveness just to survive. Even when she was wrong, I had to take the hit. I used to think I owed her for saving my life, but now looking at her, I just felt nauseous. I kept my head down and ignored her existence. Stella marched back out of the room, her face looking like a storm. Did you see the group chat messages? What messages? I asked without looking up. I could practically feel her letting out a sigh of relief. Nothing. Just some work stuff sent to the wrong group. I found it hilarious, but I was too tired to even expose her. I wondered how many dirty secrets they shared. Felix's car is fixed. Have you fixed yours yet? Since I was silent, she spoke up again. This was her signal, giving me a chance to make up. Usually, I would have rushed over to kiss up to her, but today I did not move. A piece of junk is not worth fixing, I replied flatly. Stella frowned, asking me what I meant by that. I looked at her, totally confused why she was offended. She used to say that every time my car got hit, trust me, you and I are just getting started. All right, you and I are about to witness a betrayal so cold it'll make your blood boil. It all starts with a sigh. I know you are still mad about the company, but Felix has been doing a great job lately. Gifting him the car was just to retain talent. Hearing that, I almost choked. Felix was only hired through her nepotism. His work was trash and his mistakes were honestly countless. Small stuff, like ordering water for clients while buying himself premium bubble tea. Yeah, he was really that guy. Major things, like sending base cost spreadsheets to clients instead of quotes, costing us tens of millions. A dog would be more useful than him. If I did not know the business, I might have actually believed her. I stayed silent as she called me her boyfriend. When we marry, the company will be yours too, right? Why must you be so petty with him, Arthur? Everything I do is for us. She claimed she did not want to show favoritism, but that was a total lie. Everyone saw how she actually treated me versus him. Projects I spent 3 sleepless nights on, she would hand them to Felix just so he could claim all the final glory. Clients I spent days winning over were suddenly signing contracts with him over dinner. Just like that, my hard work was gone. Eventually, the colleagues did not just see her favoritism. They assumed she actually hated me, treating me like I was a nobody. Now pay attention, because she watched me get bullied by the entire office and did nothing. She just pretended she was completely blind. Explaining myself felt useless since she would just call it an excuse. You do not need to explain anything, I replied coldly. I have nothing to do with the company anymore. Stella went silent, then walked over and wrapped her arms around my neck while on her tiptoes. Her breath was soft. I just wanted you to rest, she whispered. Why don't you start thinking about our wedding proposal? She asked with a flirtatious smile, acting like I had not already proposed multiple times only to be rejected every single time. Whenever we had a bad fight, she would dangle the marriage carrot in front of me just to keep me quiet. I felt less like a boyfriend and more like a pet on a leash. Stella scratched my chin. Don't be mad anymore. Give me a smile, okay? She leaned in for a kiss, clearly trying to win me over, but I smelled another man's cologne on her. My stomach churned instantly. I shoved her away and grabbed a wet wipe to clean my skin. Stella stood frozen, looking like she had been struck by lightning. Are you crazy? I have things to do tonight, I said, heading for the bedroom. Stella tried to follow me, desperate to keep control. I slammed the door in her face and locked it. Arthur, do not regret this, she screamed. She made a threat and stomped away. When I emerged, she was gone. On the company group chat, she was already inviting everyone out for a late-night meal. The chat was dead until Felix responded with a string of joyful emojis. I knew she was only doing this to hurt me. This happened every time we fought. No other colleague dared to join the drama, but Felix was always ready to jump in. You and I both know the old me would have chased after them in a jealous rage, but now, I could not care less. I found a new apartment, paid the deposit, and immediately called an agent. It was time to sell the house I had built. Believe it or not, even though I paid for this house and oversaw all renovations, Stella's name was the one on the deed. Back then, I drained my life savings just to make her feel secure. I was young, broke, and incredibly stupid for love. The company is huge now, so she likely forgot about this house. But the agent said she needs to sign the papers in person. I tried to message her, but a red exclamation mark appeared. She had blocked me. Classic Stella, playing her usual games again. Whenever we argued, she would block me and disappear. I used to panic, calling her from other phones just to hear her voice. I would borrow phones, calling her in a panic and begging her to finally unblock me so we could just talk. Thinking back on all the soul-crushing lies I told just to pacify her, I honestly lost count. I called her directly this time. Come home for a bit tonight. We need to talk. Talk about what? I am very busy right now, Stella said coldly. She scoffed, saying I cannot just push her away and expect her to come back. Do I owe you something, Arthur? So I have to come back? Do I owe you something, Arthur? Is this an apology, or have you just forgotten how to grovel for my forgiveness? Ignoring her sarcasm, I lowered my voice and apologized just like the old days. I had lied so many times for her. One more lie would not kill me, especially since this fake apology was the price of getting my house sold and gone. If she decided to be petty, this would turn into a messy lawsuit. She had the energy for that drama, but I did not. Once she heard the apology, her tone softened instantly. Wait for me, she said, and hung up. I felt absolutely nothing inside. I listed the house at a discount for a quick sale. Then, I met with Ben to sign my new employment contract. Ben was thrilled, asking if this was a dream. He even threw a massive welcome dinner to celebrate my return. I planned to go home early, but figured Stella would be out late anyway. After a few drinks, I headed to the restroom, and that's where things get wild. Stick with me, because I just heard a very familiar voice in the room next door. All right, you and I are about to witness a betrayal so cold it will make your blood boil. Look through the door. Stella is laughing while her world prepares to shatter. Seizing the moment, Felix leans in and steals a kiss. Stella freezes for a second, but she doesn't pull away from his touch. CEO Stella, when are you dumping Arthur? I can't wait anymore. I want to be with you properly. Seeing you two together hurts every day. Do you still love him more than me? Felix plays the victim perfectly, and Stella's lips part as if she is ready to surrender. Finally, she pulls him into a hug, coddling him like a child. How could he ever compare to you? The company is just too big to ignore right now. If I leave him now, people will talk, and your reputation will suffer. Just wait a little longer. Our time is coming soon, I promise you. Ah, so that was the plan. I knew you loved me the most, Felix says with a smug grin. Watching them act like a couple in love, I just smile a cold, cynical smile. I walk away to my room for a drink, letting them enjoy their fantasy until midnight. Down in the parking lot, Ben drags me over to a pristine, brand new Porsche. Do you like it? He asks. I just nod. assuming he bought a new toy for himself. I'm about to congratulate him when he shoves the keys into my hand. "A gift for you," he says. "Your old car is a total wreck." I couldn't stand seeing you in that wreck. I try to say no, but he cuts me off. "Stella just bought a luxury car for that rookie at your old firm. That guy has zero talent but drives like a king. How can you let him win? Besides, I looked at that new guy's portfolio recently. Pay attention here, because Ben is about to expose exactly how much of a fraud this guy really is. His work is clearly stolen from someone else." Ben was roasting Felix without any filter, and he was right. Those designs were actually mine, stolen from under my nose and handed over to him. Every time a project was finished, Stella would demand it be handed to Felix. No wonder his style was such a mess. An outsider like Ben saw through it instantly, yet Stella was blind. "Ben insists I take the car. It is not a freebie," he says. "I am deducting the cost from your future checks. Don't waste my good intentions." I laugh, knowing this car would take years to pay off. I realize it's just his way of giving me a massive signing bonus. I thank him, and after a few more words, we call drivers to head home. I expected Stella to be out late, but there she was, sitting on the sofa the moment I walked through the front door. "Where were you? We were supposed to meet? Do you have any idea how long I've waited?" She starts yelling before I can even take off my shoes. Usually, she stays out with Felix until 3 or 4 in the morning. Coming home this early was actually a very rare sight to see, but as I look at her, all I can see is her making out with Felix. A wave of pure disgust washes over me. "I went out with a friend," I reply flatly. I walk toward the living room to grab the power of attorney papers for the house sale, but Stella blocks my way. "You've been drinking? I told you that you were not allowed to touch alcohol when I am not around." I just sneer. She really meant I was only allowed to drink for her business clients. I ignore her, and she suddenly gets this smug, arrogant look on her face. I know what you are thinking. She is delusional, right? She thinks I am drinking because I am jealous of her dinner with Felix. Watch how Arthur handles this. "You are overthinking things. My night has nothing to do with either of you." I sit down and slide the document toward her. "Take a look." Stella raises an eyebrow, her tone full of arrogance. "What is this? An apology letter? Let me tell you now, it is far too late for that. I am furious about your attitude today. Don't think these cheap little tricks are going to earn you my forgiveness that easily." Looking at her inflated ego, I realize how I used to grovel. Whenever she played the victim, I would write handwritten letters just to make her happy again. I used to let her trample all over my self-respect even when she was the one at fault. Thankfully, those days are over for good. "It is not an apology, it is a surprise," I say calmly. Stella looks curious and reaches for the paper. Suddenly, her phone rings and her eyes light up. "Hold on, let me take this," she says. "Hello." "CEO Stella, I was driving and accidentally hit someone." Felix's whiny, dramatic voice fills the room. Panic immediately washes over Stella's face as she listens to her secret lover crying for help. "Send me your location. I am coming right now." She stands up, completely ignoring me, and makes a break for the front door. I block her path and shove the document in her face. "Deal with my business first. I was here first, and I need this signed right now. Arthur, can you have a shred of empathy? His situation is an emergency. Your jealous act is looking really ugly right now. Move out of my way." It was laughable. I am ugly, but Felix drunk driving is fine. I am too tired to argue. I just hold the paper steady until she takes it. Stella doesn't say another word. She flips the paper open, but before she can read a line, Felix screams through the speaker again. "Why are you hitting me? CEO Stella, save me." Stella yells back, clearly more panicked than the guy on the phone. She doesn't even bother reading. She flips to the last page, scribbles her signature, and then sprints out. Her golden heels clatter frantically against the floor. "Trust me, Stella is about to regret this. Aren't you going to read what you just signed? What is there to read? Your surprise is probably just some minor contract. If you checked it, it's fine," she shouts, vanishing into the darkness. It is just hilarious. Back then, I used to secretly negotiate massive partnerships just to impress her and help her grow. At first, she was thrilled, but once we got big, she started looking down on the very people who helped us survive the trenches. "All right, you and I are starting this story with a betrayal so cold it will make your blood boil." Stella, usually obsessed with every detail, just signed her life away because she was too busy worrying about her precious Felix. Honestly, her distraction saved me a lot of grief. She did not come home that night, but my phone did not stop buzzing with Felix's obnoxious texts. He texted that I should bow out before it got embarrassing, claiming Stella's heart was already his. One call was all it took for her to choose him. He wanted me to drop the engagement and disappear. I could not help but laugh at his desperate attempt to play the alpha male. Felix was finally showing his true colors, but I knew showing these to Stella was pointless. She spoiled that man like a pampered child. She would just think I was being petty and trying to break them up. But stick with me, because I was not about to let his constant yapping go unanswered. I told him congratulations, but warned him he would better be ready to bow out too when Stella inevitably gets bored of him. It was a simple jab, but it shut him up instantly. The next morning, I sent the power of attorney to the agent. It was time to sell. By the afternoon, a buyer was already touring the place. He loved everything but could not understand why I was selling such a masterpiece so fast. He asked if something was wrong with the property since the price was a steal. I just gave him the short, brutal version. I told him the engagement was off and the house had to go. He looked at me with genuine pity in his eyes. He noted the woman's touch in the decor and said selling was the best way to stop the memories from haunting me. I stayed silent. Stella was impossible to please. I had spent 3 months looking at over 100 properties just to find one that met her insane standards. The entire home was a tribute to her taste, proving how much my life had revolved around her. But the buyer was ready to move. He signed the papers that evening, agreeing to take the keys in 2 days. It was perfect timing for my own secret exit strategy. Returning home, I found a pair of men's dress shoes in the hallway. My own slippers were gone, and I knew exactly what was happening. I grabbed some disposable slippers and walked in, only to hear Felix's voice coaching Stella on how to do things in the kitchen. They were huddled by the sink, Felix wrapping his arms around her from behind while holding her hands. It was an incredibly intimate, sickening scene. Felix was lounging in my pajamas and my slippers like he owned the place, while Stella seemed totally fine with him pressing against her. Let us pause and look at the irony here. She used to pull away from me, claiming she hated physical touch. Turns out, the only person she actually could not stand was me. It was clear now. I was the problem. I just let out a dry, empty laugh. Stella finally noticed me and jumped back, looking guilty for a split second. She asked why I was home so early, as if I was trespassing. It was hilarious that my presence in my own home was now a problem. Felix immediately tried to play the nice guy. He claimed he was just teaching her to wash vegetables, but his eyes were screaming for me to have a jealous meltdown. The old me would have screamed and demanded she kick him out, but I was done. The house was already sold, and my bank account was ready. I could not care less about their little show. I calmly told them to carry on and headed straight for my bedroom. Felix was visibly confused that I did not snap. Stella, who was clearly bracing for a fight, sounded completely unnatural when she saw me so detached and calm. For the first time in years, she actually offered an explanation, saying it was Felix's birthday and he wanted to celebrate here. Usually, she would just glare and tell me to leave if I had a problem. I could not help but laugh internally at the shift. She could not remember my birthday to save her life, but she was throwing a whole party for him. And now she actually felt the need to explain. I told them to have fun and went to my room. Most of my packing was already finished, and my essentials were moved to the new place. Only a few books and clothes remained in the room. I was debating finishing the move tonight when the door was suddenly kicked open. Felix strutted in with a slice of cake, smirking at my empty room. He mocked me, saying I was being a good boy by finally preparing to leave. I ignored his taunts and kept texting my friend Ben about the final move out. I was not going to give him the satisfaction. Felix's face twisted in rage because I was ignoring him. He shouted, asking if I was deaf, but I just coldly told him that I did not care what he had to say. I pointed out that he would not be living here anyway, which clearly hit a nerve. He lunged forward in a rage, trying to grab my collar. Suddenly, hearing footsteps at the door, he smashed the cake on the floor and threw himself backward, screaming like a total victim. What a performance. Stella burst in and shoved me aside to check on him. I stumbled back, completely caught off guard by the sheer force of her aggression. A sharp shard of the broken plate sliced right through my slipper and deep into my heel. The pain was instant. Blood was soaking my slipper, but Stella did not even look at me. She was too busy panicking over a tiny, bloodless scratch on Felix's hand. Unbelievable. Felix played the innocent victim, whimpering that it was his fault for making me mad. He looked so pathetic and fragile. If I was not the one bleeding out, I might have actually believed his Oscar-worthy performance. He was that good. He lied, saying he just wanted to share his birthday cake but did not know I hated it. I never once said I hated cake in my life. I actually loved cake, and she used to tease me about it all the time. But with Felix there, she conveniently forgot every single detail about me. And trust me, you and I are going to want to see her face when she realizes the truth. She screamed that I was a heartless monster. Stick with me, you're about to witness one man finally break his chains. You're still the same as before. Apologize to Felix right now, or I'm calling off this wedding. Let's just end it. She glared at me, trying to force me into submission. It actually made me laugh. I could still hear the dirty secrets I overheard her whispering outside that private room. In the past, during our worst fights, she'd always use a breakup as her ultimate weapon, and I was always the one who couldn't bear it, begging her on my knees. I used to think she didn't really want to leave, that it was just a test or a chance, but finally, my eyes were wide open to her cruel games. She probably wanted to leave all along, which was why she kept bringing it up. Well, fine. I wanted out too. Even if she hadn't said it, I would have. Seeing my silence, Stella assumed I was terrified. Her tone softened into that fake sweetness. I saw you sneaking around these past few days. You're hiding something, right? You're secretly preparing for our wedding, aren't you? I know you don't want to leave. Now, apologized to Felix. Before she could finish her delusional speech, I cut her off completely. No need. I agree. Let's break up. The smug smile on Stella's face vanished instantly, replaced by a look of pure shock. What did you just say? Didn't you want to end this? I agree, I said calmly. I thought giving her exactly what she wanted would play right into her hands. She should have been thrilled. But strangely, I didn't hear a single drop of joy in her voice, only raw rage. Arthur, are you insane? You're throwing everything away over such a tiny thing? She screamed, glaring daggers at me. I didn't get it. Wasn't this her goal? I was finally agreeing with her. Why the attitude? Even Felix looked completely lost. He gently tugged at her sleeve. CEO Stella, Arthur is the one asking for the breakup. Why not just grant him his wish? Before he could finish, Stella snapped furiously. Shut up. Does our relationship have anything to do with you? This was probably the first time she had ever spoken so harshly to her precious little favorite. Felix was so startled, his jaw literally dropped, leaving him speechless. Stella seemed to realize her mistake. She quickly softened her voice and apologized for the outburst. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. Just go wait outside for a bit. I don't want to drag you into our messy personal business right now. Felix's eyes were red, clearly unwilling to leave, but he was smart enough to know when to retreat. He left the room. Stella sighed, her eyes suddenly darting to the floor. Her tone softened completely. Your foot is bleeding. Why didn't you say anything? Let me get you a bandage. She started walking over toward the bookshelf nearby, but I knew this was just her classic tactic to change the subject. Whenever we touched on something she didn't want to hear, she'd pivot to caring about me. In the past, I would always melt, drowning in the illusion that she actually still cared. The old argument would be forgotten, but the core issue was never resolved. It just rotted inside me until it was dug up again, uglier than before. Where are the bandages? I remember they used to be right here on this shelf. She was rummaging through a life she hadn't touched in 2 years. This is where you and I see how distant she's really been from this home. I had a 104-degree fever back then, and she ditched me to date Felix under the excuse of buying medicine. I moved that kit ages ago. Why is there so little stuff left in your room? Stella finally noticed the abnormality. I'm not hiding anything, I said. I sold the house, handing over keys in 2 days. You should find someone to pack your things and leave. Stella froze, ready to explode, but then something clicked in her brain and she let out a cold sneer. Stop joking. My name is on the deed too. How could you sell it without my signature? All right, Arthur, I'll tell Felix to leave. Just stop this tantrum. She still didn't believe me. I picked up the sales contract from the desk and handed it over. The last page is your power of attorney. The agent said it's enough. The power of attorney was from the night Felix got arrested for drunk driving. You signed it then, remember? If you don't, it doesn't matter. It's legally binding. Stella took the contract. When she flipped to the final page, her entire body suddenly went rigid. Half a second later, she shrieked at me like a total maniac. Who gave you permission to sell our house without asking me first? I laughed coldly. I never took a single dime from her company to buy this place. I bought this house entirely with my own hard-earned money. It's perfectly reasonable for me to make the final decision. Besides, I remember you bought a house for Felix. It's not like you're homeless. You can move in with him. Logically and legally, there is absolutely nothing wrong with me selling this house and moving on. Now here's the part where it gets pathetic. Stella was speechless, her face pale. She tried to calm herself down and explained in a desperate, low voice, that house. I meant to give it to you, not Felix. I only put his name on it so he would feel a sense of belonging for a while. If it bothers you, I'll take his name off tomorrow, okay? We've been together for so many years. We can't just end it like this. I know you're just angry. Calm down. We'll talk about this tomorrow. With that, she turned and practically fled the room. It was the same old routine I'd seen 1,000 times before. Whenever an argument reached a point of no return, she would put on a front of still being in love, telling me to calm down to reset the cycle. And every time I would gaslight myself into believing her, thinking I was being too impulsive. I'd apologize first. In the beginning, I truly loved that woman. Eventually, I knew her heart wasn't mine anymore, but I couldn't let go of all the years I'd invested. I believed if I just kept yielding, things would finally improve. But time proved that nothing ever got better. It was all my own sad, pathetic delusion. I was the only one fighting for a future that didn't exist. She probably thought I'd still be the same puppet dancing in the palm of her hand, but she was wrong. This relationship had been ground to dust long ago. After Stella left, I cleaned up the broken porcelain, bandaged my foot, and went out. Stella and Felix were gone. Scraps of food and half a candle lay discarded. Cleaning the house had always been my job. I never wanted Stella to lift a finger, and over time, she just got used to being treated like a queen. I was too lazy to clean it now, figuring I'd just hire a deep cleaning service before handing over the keys anyway. I showered and went to sleep, but the next morning, when I walked out of my room, I found the house spotless. Stella was standing in the kitchen, bustling around wearing a little apron. You and I both know she's trying to pretend nothing happened. I cleaned the house and even disinfected everything for you. She smiled, looking perfectly serene. Stick with me here, you're about to watch a man finally snap. Usually, I'd ignore her messy housework and shower her with fake praise just to make her feel good. But today, just a cold laugh and a dry MHM. Stella looked stunned for a second, but she forced a smile anyway and brought out 2 plates of breakfast. She says she made it herself. I looked down at 2 cheese sandwiches. Honestly, they look decent enough. After 10 years, this is the very first breakfast she's ever made for me. I should be touched, but she forgot one tiny detail. I'm deathly allergic to cheese. Stella's face drops. She offers to make something else, but I just tell her not to waste her time on useless things. A peaceful breakup is better for both of us. At the office party, she remembered every single ingredient Felix hates, but somehow forgot the time my cheese allergy landed me in the hospital for days. Whether she actually loved me or not, yeah, it's pretty obvious. Stella's not having it. She gets annoyed and tells me that couples shouldn't hold grudges, claiming she lowered her pride just to cook for me. She asks why I'm being so picky since she's busy with the company every day. It's just a small detail, right? I just nod along. So, I tell her it's normal for us to break up too. Stella finally snaps. She slams the tray down with a deafening crash, glares at me like I'm the problem, and storms out. Now pay attention, this is where it gets satisfying. I call the cleaners and ship every single one of her things out to her house in the suburbs. I used to pack for her all the time when she traveled, so clearing her out didn't take long at all. I handed over the house right on time. Stella finally realizes I'm not bluffing, and starts blowing up my phone with a non-stop stream of insults. When I don't respond, she starts posting endless photos with Felix to make me jealous. Meanwhile, I'm busy settling into my new role at Ben's company. By the time I check my phone, it's flooded with alerts because she's still set as a favorite contact. One day she's at a park with Felix, the next, a hot air balloon. Then she's bragging about her company's success and taking Felix to Bali as a special reward trip. She even flaunted a couple's ring in one photo just to provoke me. I knew exactly what she was trying to do. She's just waiting for me to get jealous and beg her to come back so she can act like she's doing me a huge favor. Classic toxic move. But honestly, I don't care. I go to close the app, but my finger slips and I accidentally like one of her posts. Great. I unlike it immediately and remove her from my favorites to avoid the drama. My work at Ben's company is already making a huge impact on their projects. The sales team is thriving, landing a massive billion-dollar contract. While Ben and I are getting ready to meet the client and sign the deal, Stella suddenly sends me a photo. It's a pregnancy ultrasound report with her name on it. How does it feel? She texts. Then she follows up saying she's just kidding. The report is fake, but she tells me to look inside. Was I jealous? Could I really handle her carrying another man's kid? You and I both know the answer. It's hilarious. I hadn't really thought about it until now, but seeing her with another guy used to make my blood boil and my heart race like crazy. But looking in the mirror now, I feel nothing. Not a single ripple of emotion. Even my smartwatch shows my heart rate is completely calm and stable. The fact that Stella is someone else's problem now, yeah, I've completely accepted that reality. I almost ignore her, but I don't want any more headaches from Felix. I just text back that she has a new boyfriend now. I tell her to stop crossing boundaries before her new guy gets the wrong idea. A few minutes later, she starts typing and then stops over and over. Finally, she replies, telling me to keep pretending. She says if I didn't love her anymore, I wouldn't even care enough to respond. She brings up that accidental like on her post, and I actually laugh. Stella never used to care about tiny details like that. Looks like Felix really changed her. She didn't change once in 9 years with me, but for him, she's a whole new person. Before I can answer, she claims nothing has happened between her and Felix. Apparently, he's just playing along to help us get back together. She says for his sake, she'll give me one last chance. I just sneer and block her number. She still thinks I'm going to come crawling back, but that's fine. She'll realize soon enough that I'm dead serious. I know her desperate attempts to hold on aren't because of love. She's terrified of the gossip. Flirting with Felix is one thing, but officially leaving me for him would be a total PR disaster for her. I ignore her completely and focus on my career. That night, Ben and I finally sign the contract, and he is absolutely ecstatic. At the celebration dinner, Ben introduces me to several industry heavyweights as his actual partner. The respect they show me honestly warms my heart. Whenever I went to these dinners with Stella, she always introduced me like some clueless junior employee, never as her equal. Because of her, the other bosses lost all respect for me, even ordering me around for petty errands. I can't blame her entirely though. I'm the one who allowed it. But tonight, I'm finally hitting it off with the other CEOs until one pulls me aside to ask if I've offended someone lately. He says I've been put on an industry blacklist and thought it was a mistake. I honestly don't believe him at first. He shows me the database on his phone. It's a list designed to warn companies about risky hires or people with criminal records. And there it is, my name and photo. The reason? Insubordination and an inability to cooperate with my own colleagues. An extremely jealous and toxic personality. I know exactly who wrote this, and trust me, you and I both know she's going to regret it. Stick with me because you are about to watch an underdog destroy his arrogant ex's ego. He just wiped my profile right off the corporate blacklist. I thanked him, but my heart felt a bitter sting. I was lucky to have Ben on my side. If I were a normal job seeker, this blacklist would have ruined my entire future. The blacklist was not inherently evil. It protected businesses, but human resources departments never bothered to verify the claims they saw on screen. They just relied on pure prejudice. An innocent person would face failure after failure until they finally lost the courage to even keep trying. Seeing us still chatting, a very buzzed Ben threw his arms around us and dragged everyone back to the table for another round of drinks. After dinner, we walked the guests to their cars. Ben stepped away to call his girlfriend, leaving me alone at the hotel entrance, waiting for my driver. Then, a voice called out from behind me. "Oh, Arthur, what are you doing here?" I turned around to find Felix and Stella standing right there. Felix had his arm tight around Stella's waist. They looked like two people madly in love. The moment he saw me, Felix flashed a smug smirk. He leaned down and whispered to Stella, "Chief Executive Officer Stella, I bet Arthur is here for you. Why don't you two talk? I will give you space. Pay attention here because this is where things get absolutely infuriating." Stella pulled him back against her chest, flaunting their intimacy just to make me feel like garbage. "You are not an outsider. There is nothing to hide." Then she shot me a smug look. "Did you not say you did not need another chance? What are you doing here then? Let me tell you, it is too late. Arthur, you are officially out of chances now." Her arrogant attitude was the total opposite of the fragile girl she played around Felix. I knew she misunderstood, so I just said I was having dinner with a friend. "I am just waiting for a ride home." Felix laughed out loud. "Sorry, Arthur. I just did not expect an unemployed guy to be splurging on hotels like this. Dining with a friend?" I caught the heavy sarcasm in his voice. He clearly thought I was just lying to save face. "Arthur, I did not think you would sink this low." Stella looked at me with pure disdain. I did not bother explaining because it would not matter anyway. They would never believe me. Seeing my silence, Stella assumed she caught me in a lie, confirming Felix's theory. She let out a heavy sigh. "Honestly, I was not going to forgive you, but we were in love once. Since you dragged yourself here, I will give you one more chance. Just perform well." She raised an eyebrow and looked at Felix. He was clearly hearing this for the first time and panicked, but did not object. He stammered, "Chief Executive Officer, Stella, you should think about this. Getting back with an ex is never a good idea." I almost laughed out loud. Clearly, these two had not synchronized their scripts yet. Stella ignored his muttering and looked at me coldly. "Did you hear that, Arthur? Lately, my friends have been telling me to cut my losses. They say you are not worthy. Do you know how many people told me to dump you? It is only because of our history that I forgave you. I do not know what drugs you are on or who brainwashed you into dumping me. Everyone knows how lucky you are, but you just do not know how to appreciate it." Stella just kept rambling on and on. Her net worth far surpassed mine now, which is why she constantly emphasized the imbalance. She made it clear she only stayed out of nostalgia and pity. In the past, I brushed this off as anger. Only later did I realize she meant every word. To her, we were held together by history and her charity. There was zero love left. I was about to respond when Ben's voice rang out behind us. "Arthur, who are these two people?" I felt a massive wave of relief seeing Ben approach us. "Just some former colleagues I bumped into." In the past, Stella always introduced me as just a colleague. I thought she would be thrilled with that introduction. Surprisingly, her face just darkened even more. I ignored her and introduced Ben. "This is my friend. Like I said, I was having dinner with him." Now, Stella looked absolutely furious. Felix beat her to the punch with a smug smile. "Did not expect you to actually have a friend invite you here, Arthur. What does he even do? Where does he work?" Ben frowned and whispered to me, "What is wrong with this guy? He sounds brain damaged." I just chuckled and told him it was fine. Ben did not push it, but he definitely sensed Felix's hostility. He replied casually, "I just run a small business. It is nothing impressive." Hearing that, Felix looked even more triumphant. He gave Ben a look of utter contempt. "Business is tough these days, right? It must be so exhausting. You should not waste your hard-earned money on expensive dinners like this." Ben caught the sarcasm immediately, but he did not retaliate directly just yet. He leaned in and whispered to me, "What is the deal here? Do you have beef with this clown?" I did not hide it. The woman next to him is my ex and his sugar mommy. Ben already knew about our startup together and exactly why we broke up when I joined his firm. You and I both saw this coming. Time for some serious payback. "So, you do not earn your money with blood and sweat then? What exactly do you do? With that vibe, you are not a kept man living off a woman, are you?" Felix's face flushed with pure rage. He lunged forward to throw a punch, but Stella stopped him. "Stop messing around," Stella snapped, then turned to me. "Arthur, I do not have time for games. I know exactly what you want. If you come back, I will restore your position at the company and give you 10% of the shares. Are you satisfied now? 10%? Before I could process the audacity, Ben just burst out laughing. Sorry, but I already poached him for my company and gave him 40%. Stella's face went black before she glared at me coldly. Arthur, think. Different companies have different values. A percentage at a no-name company means nothing. She implied Ben's company was light years behind her own, and that is where we leave it. Trust me, you want to see what happens next. Alright, you and I are about to see a massive power shift. Ben's company just secured $1 billion contract, officially crushing Stella's entire empire. Between Stella's messy management and her blind obsession with Felix, I knew her company was doomed. I was too lazy to explain because she never listens to reason. Ben did not waste his breath either. He checked his app just as a professional-looking designated driver jogged up to meet us by the curb. Hello, bosses, I am your driver. Where's the car? My ride is a bit flashy, Ben said. Try not to scratch it. I tossed him the keys without a second thought. 2 minutes later, he pulled up a brand new Porsche and parked it right in front of us. Boss, this car is insane. It must have cost a fortune. I looked at Felix, whose eyes were practically glowing with pure, unfiltered envy. Stella stood there in stunned silence, clearly fuming but unable to speak. Ben just looked over at me and gave a cheeky, satisfied grin. Oh, it wasn't that expensive, just over $2 million. It was a company bonus. Then, he turned his attention back to the shocked driver. Now watch this part carefully. Ben offered the guy a full-time job for $20,000 a month. The driver was stunned. Really? You are not joking? Ben promised to send the contract. I promise I will do a great job, boss. While they chatted, Stella shot me a freezing glare, turned on her heel, and marched away into the darkness. Felix scrambled after her immediately. Once they vanished, Ben finalized the deal with the driver. I looked at my friend, totally caught off guard by his sudden generosity. Are you actually hiring him? Of course, Ben replied. You are our lead tech guy now, and networking involves plenty of drinks. But isn't that salary way too high? Back at Stella's company, I was only making $15,000 a month myself. I was genuinely confused. Ben just slapped my shoulder. Arthur, when you are blacked out, this guy holds your life in his hands. He is worth every single penny. I did not argue further. For the next several weeks, we threw ourselves into the new project with total focus. Stella went totally silent on social media, and even Felix stopped his petty, annoying texts. You and I both know that kind of silence usually means trouble. I thought she had finally given up, but I was wrong. One day, while we were wrapping up, Ben pulled me aside with a mysterious look. Stella just called me. He looked dead serious. She's going to contact you soon. Whatever you decide, I support you. Just do not waver. Leaving me with those cryptic words, he walked away. I was confused, but got back to work until my phone finally rang at noon. It was Stella. When I picked up, there was no screaming. She was uncharacteristically quiet. It was so silent I thought the call had dropped. I checked the screen, but we were still connected. The silence stretched on for nearly 30 seconds before she finally found her voice. Arthur, let's stop this nonsense. Can we please make up? Her voice sounded hoarse and broken. Honestly, I found the whole thing pretty laughable. Even now, she still thought I was just throwing a tantrum. I stayed silent as she explained she had talked to Ben about my sacrifices. Ben told her I chose her company over his years ago. She finally admitted she had neglected me since Felix arrived, but begged me to remember our 10 years together. We were talking about marriage. Are we really going to throw everything away over these past 10 months? Her voice choked up with emotion. I paused as memories of the last decade flashed through my mind. We had always leaned on each other, walking through the thorns together. It was an ordinary life, but we were a team. Whenever things got hard, we were the only ones there to encourage each other. I remember drinking 3 bottles of hard liquor just to secure a deal for her, stumbling out of that restaurant barely able to stand. Before blacking out, I saw her crying while calling 911. She was thin, yet she somehow carried me until the ambulance arrived. Back then, she probably really loved me. I was about to speak when Felix's voice suddenly crackled through the phone, ruining the entire moment. Arthur, please forgive CEO Stella. I am so sorry for any drama. I swear I did not mean anything by it. If it helps, I will resign. I will never appear in front of you again. Stella did not stop him. She just let him play the martyr, and I felt disgusted. They sounded like tragic lovers being torn apart, and I was the villain. If he left now, he would forever be the one that got away. In her mind, their sacrificial love would only grow more beautiful over time. I let out a sharp, cynical laugh and finally set my condition. Fine, I can agree, but only on one condition. What condition? She asked tentatively, her voice sounding like a saint preparing for a major sacrifice. Transfer 50% of the company's shares to me and split all your personal assets in half. I knew there was no way she would agree. She knew her wealth was the only reason Felix was sticking around. The line went dead silent for nearly 5 whole minutes. Finally, Felix exploded in outrage. Arthur, this demand is insane. Stella built this company with blood and tears. Do you know how hard she worked? And you have the nerve to demand half the company? As a man, aren't you ashamed? I did not even bother tearing down his hypocritical mask. I simply told Stella that we are all adults here. You should know by now that you cannot have your cake and eat it too. You want everything to go smoothly but refuse to sacrifice anything. Since when do you get to monopolize all the good things? You have 3 days. I hung up. I thought she would give up entirely, but she called back that night. 50% is too much. Can we do 20 instead? Half is half, not a fraction less. If you cannot do it, do not call me again. I was blunt because I was done playing games. Stella seemed genuinely terrified of breaking up, even though she was the one who had practically begged for it just a few weeks ago. This whole situation felt very odd. Stella seemed terrified of breaking up, but why? Trust me, you and I are about to find out her secret. Stick with me here, because we are about to see a toxic ex try to use a hotel breakup as an excuse for her total desperation. I did not think much of it. 3 days passed without a word from Stella, while our project entered its final, intense stages. On the day of the successful launch, Ben threw a massive party. Everyone let loose, finally forgetting those long weeks of overtime. By the time I got home, it was past midnight. I took a shower and was half asleep when my phone rang. My drunk, blurry eyes accidentally hit accept instead of decline. Hello? Are you Miss Stella's boyfriend? She is blackout drunk and refuses to leave. We found your number in her phone. Can you come help? Can you pick her up before something happens? I sobered up instantly and told them to call someone else because I was not coming. She insisted only I could come. She said if anything happened to her, I would be the first one held legally responsible. I actually laughed and sat up. Now pay attention here, because this move is pure genius. I got her location and then immediately called the police to handle the whole situation. I put my phone on silent and went back to sleep. When I woke up, I had over a dozen missed calls and texts from her. She went from shock that I called the cops to calling me a cold-blooded monster who only cared about money and had no heart. Eventually, she broke down asking why I was being this way. She claimed she only made a minor mistake and had not actually cheated on me. Why was I being so ruthless? Before I could even finish reading those messages, she called my phone again. I was going to ignore it, but I figured if I did not set the record straight, she would just keep harassing me. I picked up, hearing her hoarse voice. Arthur, I have thought it through. I admit it, you win. I cannot live without you. I will give you 50% of the shares and assets. Come back. I raised an eyebrow and checked the date. Sorry, the 3 days are up. I changed my mind. Stella started to speak but began coughing violently. When she finally caught her breath, her voice was raspy. How did you become like this? I smiled but said nothing. She used to do this to me. She used to dock my bonuses and pay me less than Felix using any excuse she could find. Now I was simply returning the favor using her own playbook. It is funny how people only feel the pain when the knife is in their own flesh. She finally realized that money was never actually my goal. She let out a self-deprecating laugh, admitting she barely even recognized me anymore while gasping for air between her violent, painful coughs. It sounded painful, but let that sink in for a second. Showing concern would only give a toxic person like her false hope, so I stayed quiet. As if reading my mind, she muttered that she had a fever and was at our old house because she had recently bought it back. I did not answer. She continued, asking if I felt this bad when I had that 104-degree fever alone. She also noticed my drawings were gone. She claimed she looked everywhere and wondered if I packed them away or threw them out. She rambled like a child, her voice trembling with intense grief. Through the phone, I heard her rummaging through things. I sighed and told her that I had burned every single one of them. She let out a sharp laugh that turned into heavy, choked sobs. She cried that this house was full of our memories, but now there was no trace left. She asked how I could be so cruel as to sell the house and clean it out. I left without a trace, and she had no idea what to do. I took Felix's name off the house. I wanted to make it up to you. Why will you not give me a chance to fix my mistakes? Her crying grew louder, her voice completely hoarse. If it were the old me, my heart would have shattered hearing her cry like that. She had not changed. She was just sick and fragile in this moment. If I took her back, she would absolutely repeat the exact same toxic cycle. Stop trying. Tell Felix to take you to the hospital. I have to go to work now. Without waiting for a reply, I ended the call. Once I decided to let go, I meant it. Whether she lived a good life or a miserable one had nothing to do with me anymore. I washed up and drove to the office. As soon as I walked in, I noticed an ecstatic atmosphere. Before I could ask, Ben grabbed my arm, glowing. Our project went live, and within 2 hours it hit 80 million views. The client is thrilled and wants an exclusive long-term contract with us. This client was an industry titan. Securing them was the holy grail. Ben instantly issued bonuses to the entire team, and morale was through the roof. Using my bonus and the money from the old house, I bought a new place. This time, I chose entirely based on my own personal preferences. It was a bit far from the center, but right next to a massive lake. The view from the window was absolutely breathtaking every single morning. I drafted the interior design plans myself. Back then, Stella did not trust anyone else, and I was the only one who understood her complex tastes. I actually took a 2-month design course just to draft a blueprint that met her insane, high standards. She did not buy the house back for us. She did it for her own comfort. Well, this new place, I designed it entirely for myself. I handed the blueprints to a trusted contractor and occasionally dropped by after work to help out. After some heavy lifting, I was totally exhausted. I tripped on the stairs and sprained my ankle. I took a few days off the site, but I was too excited to stay away for long. One evening, I limped into the parking lot of the construction site. Standing next to my car was a familiar figure. It was Stella. She was wearing a trench coat and a face mask, looking haggard with dark circles under her eyes. I paused for a second before finally walking over. "What are you doing here?" I was not surprised she found me. She always had the resources to track me down. She just never cared enough before. She had something to tell me, her voice still raspy. "And trust me, you and I both know this story is far from over. Get in and talk," she said. "I heard about your house. Let's go inspect it." "No way. Stick with me because I am not falling for her games today." I shut her down instantly. Surprisingly, she did not snap. Instead, a wave of sadness hit her eyes as she handed me a thick folder. "This is your payout," she admitted. "For 10 years, I owed you everything. You sacrificed your whole life for me, and I never gave back. Consider this back pay for a decade of service. After this, I am gone." I froze for a second before slowly taking the folder from her. Inside was a detailed log of every time she had screwed me over at work, every stolen bonus and unfair penalty, doubled for interest. There was even a guilt tax for wasting 10 years of my life. She included a bank card with my birthday as the PIN code. I stared at her, trying to figure out the angle. Was this just another mind game, or was she finally letting me go for real? "I meant it. I will not bother you anymore," she said flatly, reading my mind. "Good." I nodded. This money rightfully belonged to me after everything. More importantly, I knew that taking this payout was the only way Stella would finally accept that you and I, well, we were truly finished. A flash of relief crossed her eyes, mixed with deep sorrow. "So, can I see your house? After losing you, Arthur, my life has not been great." It was just another excuse, a lingering obsession. I knew her well enough to know she would not stop until she finally got her way. If she set her mind to something, she would not leave until she got it. I did not want to drag this out. Clean breaks are best. "Let's go," I sighed, walking away. But Stella hurried over and grabbed my arm with surprising gentleness, leading me toward the passenger side of her car. "I will drive. Your foot is still hurt." I was surprised she even knew about my injury. If it were the old me, I would be overjoyed. Now, it was just too little, too late. Care that comes after the damage is done is completely worthless. I opened the passenger door to get in. Hanging from the rearview mirror was a small stuffed doll. Attached to it was a handwritten post-it note that caught my eye immediately. It was signed by Felix, saying the doll would keep her company. Stella had clearly forgotten it was there, and she looked incredibly awkward and caught out. "I will sit in the back." But then watch this. Stella aggressively ripped the doll off the mirror and threw it behind her into the seat. The violence of it shocked me. Felix was always leaving these pathetic little territorial markers everywhere to show he owned her now. From hair ties on her wrist to leaving his junk all over our old house, he was constantly trying to stake his claim on my life. It was a desperate move to make me jealous and force me to quit. At first, I fell for it and fought with Stella over it. I even threw his junk in the trash once, and Stella actually slapped me for it. "Are you crazy, Arthur? He is young, he means well." "You look so pathetic right now," she had told me. That slap broke my heart, but it helped me understand exactly what Felix's endgame really was. "You did not have to do that," I told her calmly. "We have nothing to do with each other now. Even if he were here, I wouldn't care." Stella bit her lip. "I know what you are thinking, but I am telling you the truth. Just listen to me for 1 second, please. Even though we broke up, I am not with Felix. I have no romantic feelings for him. He just reminded me of the old you alone and struggling. That is why I helped him." I just laughed. A cold, empty sound that showed her exactly how little I believed her lies anymore. I might have believed that act once, but she forgot that while she was shielding Felix with her kindness, she left me alone in the freezing rain. "There is no point talking about this anymore. Let's go." Stella gripped the wheel. I was actually planning to fire Felix, she started, but then a clatter. A metal thermos hit the ground. "Chief Executive Officer Stella, you were sick. Why are you here with him?" A trembling, heartbroken voice cried out. It was Felix, standing there with a perfect mask of total heartbreak. At his feet lay the dented thermos, with warm kanji splattered all over the floor. He looked absolutely miserable. I could not tell if it was real or a show, so I just looked at Stella and raised an eyebrow. Stella looked like a deer caught in the headlights. "You saw that too, right?" Pure panic before she tried to force a calm face. "Why are you here?" Stella's voice was tight. Felix immediately put on his best-kicked puppy expression to make her feel absolutely guilty. "You were sick for 2 whole days. I was so worried I cooked this kanji just for you, but then I saw you driving away. I was terrified something happened, so I followed you, but I guess you do not need me anymore." He stood there, the picture of a betrayed man. He knelt down, pitifully scooping up the spilled food like he had been betrayed. Stella looked so uncomfortable she looked like she wanted to disappear. "I understand," Felix whimpered. "I always hoped you two would get back together. It is only right that you treat him well today. I will just leave." He made sure to glance at his discarded doll in the back seat before lowering his head in fake shame. Seeing him play the martyr, Stella was clearly torn. She took a small step toward him, then stopped herself at the last second. "Go home. I will have someone clean this up." "No," Felix replied tragically. "Don't worry about me. I am used to taking care of myself. I took care of you while you were sick. I know how to clean." Stella looked visibly guilty at the mention of his care. She looked away. "Get in," she told me. But I did not move. "I will drive myself. Go ahead and take care of your boy." "We are done, Stella. You do not need to put on a show for me anymore." I saw a flash of pure, smug victory in Felix's eyes. "Why did you break up? Is it because of me?" "Trust me. You and I both know his innocent act is just getting... All right, you and I are diving into a breakup that goes from cold to absolutely chaotic." Stella snapped at him and promised to show me the house. The second she finished her sentence, Felix gasps, clutches his chest, and drops onto the asphalt. Stella's face goes ghost white as she screams for him. Without thinking, she is on the ground, cradling him in her arms while he moans like he is dying. Felix lies pale and limp against the concrete. Total panic. She starts hauling his limp body toward her car until she realizes I am standing right there, watching the whole pathetic performance. She freezes, torn between her supposedly dying ex and her new life. I just look at her and say human life is more important. I tell her to take him to the hospital. She bites her lip and begs me to wait at the new house while she hits the emergency room. She tosses him inside, floored the gas, and vanished into the distance. I just stood there, my heart feeling absolutely nothing as she disappeared. Did she realize he was faking? Maybe. But you know what? That is officially not my problem anymore. I was heading to the house when my partner Ben called with huge news. Our international project just went nuclear and companies wanted to negotiate immediately. No time to waste. I pulled a quick turn and drove straight for the airport, leaving all that toxic drama behind for good. The schedule was brutal. We hit the ground running, preparing our pitches before we even got through the airport customs. To ensure flawless communication, we translated everything and double-checked every single data point. We worked so hard we barely slept 4 hours a night. I was basically a walking zombie, but it paid off. One massive presentation later, and the foreign investors were completely blown away. They signed the deal. Ben and I were literally screaming with joy. That night, I finally slept like a human being again. I had not looked at my phone in days. When I finally did, I found a literal mountain of missed calls and texts from Stella. She actually went to the house and waited for me. She was furious I was not there, which honestly surprised me after everything. Usually, when Felix has a crisis, I cease to exist in her world. I guess the tables turned this time. I stared at the messages for a second, then just closed the app. It is over. No point in wasting breath on a reply. We celebrated for a day, then flew home. I reached my apartment at midnight, ready to crash into bed after the long flight. I barely hit the mattress when someone started violent pounding on my front door, like they were trying to kick it down. I thought it was a debt collector. I yanked the door open, and a figure lunged at me, nearly knocking me over from the impact. The smell hit me first. Cheap booze mixed with her signature perfume. Stella was back, and she was completely hammered. I asked what she wanted since we were done. She just hiccuped and announced she and Felix were officially together now. She stared at me with those glazed eyes, desperate to see me break or show even a single hint of jealousy or pain. Now pay attention, because here is how you and I handle a toxic ex who is desperate for a reaction. I gave her 0. I just asked if her new boyfriend knew she was here getting trashed at midnight at my place. I pulled out my phone to call Felix to come get her, but that is when she completely lost her mind and snapped. She slapped the phone out of my hand, smashing it against the wall. Then she just started screaming through heavy tears. She ranted about waiting all night, about me ghosting her and fleeing the country like a total coward. She called me cold-blooded and a liar, saying she regretted every single second we were together. If she only knew, she would have dumped me years ago. I was worried she would wake the whole building, but if I shut the door, she would probably just scream even louder. Luckily, Felix showed up, playing the hero. He glared at me while trying to pull her away from my front door. She looked at me one last time, eyes filled with something dark, then let him half carry her off into the silent night. After that, Stella vanished. But trust me, things got wild. Felix posted some cringe photos, then went silent. Word on the street was that Stella's entire company was crashing hard. Without me, her leadership was a total mess. The company was bleeding money and losing its best clients by the day. Felix started acting like a boss and bullied the staff until the senior team quit en masse. It was a total disaster. My old engineers came crawling to me for jobs. They told us the real tea. Stella and Felix were now fighting constantly. Full-on screaming matches in the office. Felix stopped apologizing and started slamming tables. It was even starting to get physical between them. Then Felix completely botched a massive project. We are talking tens of millions of dollars down the drain in one shot. She fired him, but they still lived together in that toxic cycle. They even ended up in the emergency room once. My old buddy just sighed and told me I got out at the perfect time. Stella is a ghost of herself now, and her company is a sinking ship. I could have been dragged down with it. So what do you and I learn from this? Stella built her own success but orchestrated her own ruin by choosing the wrong path and slamming on the gas. While she burned her world down, my company hit the stratosphere. That international deal was just the beginning of our success. Alright, you and I are about to see how a massive business win turned into a total nightmare. After 3 months, Ben and I smashed our goals, but expansion plans caused some friction. We fought for days, yelling until we were hoarse in that conference room. But Ben was different from Stella. He actually listened when I spoke. When I dealt with Stella, it was her way or the highway, no matter how wrong she was. If I did not cave, the whole project just died. Ben actually heard my points. Our fights were productive, sharpening our plans and turning us into a much stronger team than before. One night, exhausted from debating, I finally made it home. My new place was finally finished, a perfect sanctuary after all the corporate chaos. I sank into a hot bath, eyes closed, trying to map out our next big moves. Suddenly, my phone buzzed on the counter. I wiped my hands and checked the screen. My heart dropped. Stella. It had been 6 months since Felix dragged her away from me. We had crossed paths at work events since then, but it was just cold, awkward nods. Every single time we met, I could feel Felix staring at me like he wanted me dead. I get why a boyfriend hates the ex, but the guy was clearly insecure. I mean, he already had her. Why was he still so threatened? Wondering what she wanted, I picked up. Arthur, my pipe burst. Please come fix it. She sounded terrible, like she had been sobbing for hours. Call Felix or a plumber. I snapped back. Back then, I would have dropped everything for her. But now? This was just a bizarre, desperate move for attention. We were exes now, and calling me to be her handyman was absurd. Pay attention here, because she was about to drop a massive bombshell. I fired him and we are over, she claimed. I was shocked, but asked why she sounded so rough and where the plumber was. Nobody is answering this late, she cried, sounding completely broken. Arthur, I know you hate me, but I have no one else. I am out of options. I heard the howling wind through the phone. It was chilling. A chill hit my spine as the terrifying truth set in. Where exactly are you right now? I demanded. Stella paused, then whispered on the roof. My blood turned to ice. Memories of our startup flooded back. We were going bankrupt and Stella had a total breakdown. She was fragile, driven to the edge by the pressure of it all. In the dead of night, she had left a goodbye note and stood right on the ledge. She was ready to end everything. If I had not caught her then, she would be gone. I thought she was stronger now, but here she was, doing the same stupid thing again. If I did not know, I would not care. But her life was on the line. I sighed, told her to wait, and raced to the old building. I burst inside to find Stella with red, swollen eyes. The kitchen was a lake, water everywhere. It was a disaster, but she looked even worse than the flooded apartment did. I waded into the mess and checked the pipe. It was just a loose joint. Nothing a quick turn of the wrench could not handle. Fixed, I said, wiping my hands. The neighbors are dry, so just mop this up and you are good. I stood up, wanting to get out of there immediately. I took 2 steps before she grabbed me from behind, arms tight around my waist. She buried her face in my back and started sobbing uncontrollably. You still love me, don't you? She begged. You would not have come if you didn't. I was wrong, Arthur. Please, let's just go back to how we were. I sighed and pried her hands off me one by one. You misunderstood everything. The plumbing fee is $100, I said coldly. Pay up. Stella just stared at me, her lips trembling in total shock. 30 seconds later, she sent $10,000 to my account. Too much, I told her. I sent the rest back and showed her the screen. We are even now, I said. We owe each other nothing. She just repeated my words with a hollow, broken smile on her face. I walked out without looking back. On the drive, I saw a stray cat and used the $100 to buy it some sausages. I fed the poor thing and went home. I thought that was the end. I thought she finally gave up. Trust me, I was dead wrong. A month later, our massive project launched. Then, the hammer dropped. Stella's company was suing me for stealing secret corporate trade data. The evidence was detailed. Fake bank logs and a video of me in her place the night I fixed that pipe. They had been planning this the whole time. The footage was edited to look like I was raiding her study. I was actually just looking for a wrench to fix her sink. The audio made it sound like she caught me stealing files. The video leaked online and blew up instantly, turning me into a public villain. Because our new project was huge, rivals jumped on the chance to destroy us by fanning the social media flames. People believed the lies. They saw me leave her company and launch a better product. It looked like a betrayal. They bought the story and started a boycott. The internet was screaming for blood. Soon, I was being dragged to the police station for interrogation. Stella could not even look me in the eye across that table. Suddenly, it clicked. You and Felix never really broke up, did you? I whispered. She flinched hard. Felix was the one who actually robbed you. He nearly ruined your company, not me. He was the real thief all along. You lured me there with a fake emergency just to set me up as his scapegoat. I saw it all now. Looking back, the red flags were everywhere. Men's slippers at the door, cigarette ash in the sink, and those green velvet curtains she always hated. Felix had never even moved out of that apartment. I thought her taste just changed while living with him, but he never left. Stella bit her lip, looking like she was about to snap. Felix is still young, she stammered. I could not let one mistake ruin his life. I had to protect his future. She actually chose that loser over the truth. What about my life? I laughed. I gave you 9 years and you are destroying me. You and I just witnessed a true betrayal. All right, you and I are about to witness the coldest betrayal in recent history. Stella forgot how I saved her from the mud, and her body shrunk in terror because she knew I remembered. Her family was brutal, treating her like property in a poor rural village. One mistake meant a violent beating. She fought every second to reach college, only for her family to try and sell her to a local thug for a dowry. I drained every cent of my life savings just to pay them off and buy her freedom. She cried in my arms that day, swearing we would be together forever. She promised we would rely on each other for life. I did not care if she stopped loving me. She had that right. I did not even blame her for moving on. But I could never forgive her for framing me just to protect the man who actually destroyed her life after everything I sacrificed. I looked for any sign of regret. Instead, she just whispered for me to consider this her final sin against me. She walked away without looking back. In that moment, the very last bit of love I had for her vanished into thin air. Little did she know, she was the one heading to hell. A week later, the high-stakes trial finally began. Because of our company's high status, the entire world was watching the courtroom live stream in intense media scrutiny. Her lawyer lied through his teeth, calling me a thief. Stella just sat there at the table with her head bowed low. Felix was in the gallery, smirking at me like he had already won. He was absolutely convinced he got away with it. Now pay attention, because this is where the entire game changes. Ben and our legal team presented our proof. They did not just debunk the video, they played a recording. It was crystal clear. Stella and Felix, caught red-handed conspiring in her own living room for the whole world to hear. Felix's whiny voice filled the room, begging her to save him because they were having a baby together. He did not want to go to jail. He admitted to selling our technology for cash. Then, the speakers echoed with a sharp, violent slap as the truth came out. He probably forced her hand to hit him, his usual guilt trip. The entire courtroom gasped in shock. The mask had finally slipped. The truth was out. Felix sold the tech, and Stella framed me to cover up his massive crime that doomed her business. Felix turned pale. He jumped up, screaming like a madman that the recording was a total fake. He claimed it was artificial intelligence, but the guards tackled him before he could reach the barrier. He was finished. Stella's voice rang out, cold as ice, telling him this was the last time she would ever help him. You saw that too, right? The moment millions of people online turned their rage toward those two. Felix lost it completely, his mind snapping under the pressure. Felix lost it, screaming death threats at her. Stella just slowly walked toward the spot where he was being restrained. The guards let her pass, thinking she wanted to talk. Felix thought she was coming to save him with a new lie. He hissed at her to lie, telling her she already dumped Arthur and should not let me win this fight. Before he could say another word, Stella slapped him across the face with every ounce of her strength. She told the entire court the recording was real. Her voice echoed as she confessed to framing me to protect him. The live stream crashed from the sheer volume of hate comments. Felix snapped, breaking free and lunging straight for Stella's throat. Stella just let out a broken laugh, looking at me with a smile that sent chills down my spine. Suddenly, something flashed in her hand. Before anyone could move, she spun around with terrifying, deadly speed. Felix's screaming stopped instantly. He collapsed to the floor as the courtroom dissolved into pure, bloody chaos. The guards were frozen in shock. Stella's strength finally gave out, and she fell right beside him on the floor. She lay there, locking her eyes onto mine for one final haunting second. Her lips curved into a tragic smile, her final goodbye to me. Screams filled the air as ambulances were called. Felix died that day. Stella survived, but her body was left with permanent, life-altering damage that she can never escape. When she woke up, she was already handcuffed to her hospital bed. She was sentenced to life for murder. Public opinion shifted, and my team considered buying her ruined company remains. We decided against it. Ben and I agreed that it felt too much like grave robbing. We kept growing our empire instead, but months later, her lawyer reached out with a strange message from her. Stella had left every single share and asset she owned to me. After some long thought, I accepted the gift. I renamed the company after myself and turned it into an advocacy firm for exploited employees. Our mission is simple: clear the names of people who were wrongfully blacklisted by the powerful. I wanted to make sure nobody else had their life destroyed the way she tried to destroy mine. Standing in this penthouse, I look out at the city and wonder, what do you and I take from this? Revenge is sweet, but peace is better. The storm is finally over, and it is smooth sailing from here.